This week I want to talk about 5 things that I'm changing in my homeschooling routine in 2023. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sinead and I am a minimalist homeschooler. My channel, thesimplemamma.com, here on YouTube and on my blog, I talk about minimalist homeschooling and what that means, what it looks like, and why I believe in it and why I practice it. And this year is no different, still definitely a minimalist year, but there are some things that I have decided to change this year because of some questions and looking back on 2022. Now, I want to note for anyone who's watching this, I do feel a little bit I apologize that I think that my videos lately, and this one probably as well, even though I haven't actually done it yet, is not as well put together as I want. I really don't have time to be writing scripts or rehearsing these videos, which I realize that when you're doing a lot of talking is actually very important because it helps you to really just hone in the vocabulary and the straightforwardness of how you're going to put something forward. I don't have time for that at the moment. My youngest is 3 months old, and you know, she's still in the phase of just, you know, regular feedings, and, you know, with other children and toddlers, my life is very hectic at the moment. And the fact that I am committed to putting out 1 video a week, but I'm hoping that with each week the quality is going to improve. But until then, I can only say that this is all I'm capable of for now, and I hope that the information is still as helpful and as relevant as I want it to be. So let's get started. Alright, so the reason why I decided to change 5 things in my homeschooling this year is because I think that's just normal. I think that with each year of homeschooling, we grow in some direction or other, and our circumstances change, things happen, and we learn. And I think that that's going to help us with our homeschooling journey. To change things up can just give you a bit of a refresh, and if you're sometimes feeling like it's another year of homeschooling, which I hope people don't feel that way, but if you do, we all have our downtimes, then having a few changes and experimenting with a few different ways of doing things can only help in the long run. I have looked at my year and figured out my weaknesses. Where was places that I wasn't as consistent as I could be? Where was places that I didn't enjoy? Where did I have areas in my homeschooling that I think lacked in perhaps fine-tuning my learners? Was I available? You know, was it consistent? Was it effective? Did we really get what I think we should have done? Now, as you know, I'm a minimalist homeschooler, so my workload is already pretty minimal. So therefore, I do feel like I don't have many excuses to say, well, it's okay, that can slip and this can slip. When I do give myself a little bit of grace because I was pregnant and I went through morning sickness and pregnancy, and I was a little bit more tired, and my baby was born in October, so it was a hectic year. But I do feel like last year I didn't fine-tune my kids enough, and I realized that my weaknesses there was I was at the table with them, but I was a little bit inconsistent with my one-on-one time with each child. And that's where it can get really tricky when you're homeschooling, because I'm homeschooling all young kids. One of the most difficult aspects of homeschooling a lot of young children like I am is being available for the one-on-one time that they need to fine-tune their learning. Now, last year I was definitely very happy with the consistency that we showed up, and so that was definitely, you know, a step forward in a good direction. That was a strength that I was glad that I grew, but now I have to sort of fine-tune showing up. So this year there is a few elements of my time that I think that I can put forward in order to succeed, in order to grow now that skill, which is having the patience to give all my children the one-on-one time that they need every week. So a way that I'm going to experiment and try that out is to loop schedule my one-on-one time. What I intend to do is to mark out the days of the week, obviously, which means I'll be homeschooling for 5 days every week this year instead of 4, which I was doing last year. But I intend for the 5th day to be sort of if we need it, if we don't kind of thing. It's just that option. But what I'm going to do is to loop schedule my one-on-one time. So what that means is that, say, on Tuesdays, I will do 2 children and they'll alternate. And then on Wednesdays, I'll do another 2 children and they'll alternate. I currently will have, I think I will have either 3 or 4 kids at the school table. My littlest one, my The fourth one, who is my daughter Bess, she's 5 this year, and while I don't believe in like starting ages and all that kind of thing, but she is showing signs that she would like to be at the school table. So I'm going to order her some really simple school books, and she will start that. And so if she wants to be at the school table, it does mean that I have to give her my one-on-one time. So I might organize that she's at the school table for like 2 days a week when I can give her my one-on-one time. What I intend to do is to, when I'm working with one child or 2 children a day with my time, when and fine-tuning the quality of their work, then the other children are going to be doing work that I know they don't need much help with. And again, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe it's not, and kind of is one of those things that I'm definitely the most iffy on. I don't know how successful this is going to be. I'm just going to try it out. But yeah. That's what homeschooling is all about. It's all about trying things new, changing it up, and seeing what works for you. And this year, that is just something that I'm definitely going to be introducing. On in the year, or what I'll do is I'm going to do like how we're going videos, since I have been introducing these 5 pretty new habits into my homeschooling. And hopefully I can give you an update on how I sort of fine-tune just the one-on-one time, how I work it, and how I like it, and whether it's something that I will keep. Alright, so the second thing I'm going to try this year is what I'm going to call a mummy hour. So this was something that actually I grew up with for a small period of time. I can't remember exactly when, but there was a small time there when my mum did institute what she called the mummy hour. And it was something where we all sat down, all my siblings and me at the table, and I think she read a book and we sort of talked about the book, or it was usually a Bible story or something like that, and we would do an activity while she read and something like that. It was just a way for us to all be sitting down and just open up conversation amongst me and my siblings and my mum, and I think that is something that I want to introduce with mine school time as well. And I'm going to use this mummy hour time to introduce extracurricular and Bible. So I may alternate. I'm not usually very big on Bible curriculum. Most of the time I will look into a Bible curriculum and realize that it doesn't really align with the beliefs that I have. So I just think, well, I'm just going to stick to reading the Bible. I'm not opposed to just sort of tweaking things as I go through a Bible curriculum, but I just find that, will I really do that? Not really. And then I sort of lose interest in having to pretty much pre-organize and pre-read and make sure that everything is ready for that Bible curriculum, when I could just open the Bible and read and talk about it. That's what I prefer to do. So with my mummy hour, I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times a week. And for half an hour, we will do Bible and conversation around that. And then for the other half an hour, we're going to be doing a science book, or even just like a kid's fact book, just opening up a book, whether it's history, science, geography, human anatomy, biology, whatever it is, and we're going to work through that. And what I'll do is I will work through one book at a time. I'm not going to be opening up, 4 different books and alternating, because I feel like the children won't really be able to remember each subject. So I'm probably going to lean from something from master books. The human anatomy one is looking fairly interesting to me, and I think my kids are going to really enjoy that. So I'll be opening probably that one there. And again, I'll give you an update on what curriculum I'm going to be using this year. In a way, it's kind of more for me than for them. It's a way for me to go, right, this is mummy hour. I have it planned. I know what I'm going to do. We're going to do it these 3 days a week. We're going to show up. Because now that I have a 3-month-old baby, I need to make sure that I am preparing my time ahead. That is one of the biggest things with homeschooling when you have young children and babies, is that you cannot just show up without a plan. And knowing that it's there, knowing that it has to be done, and knowing how you're going to do it is key to be able to show up consistently. The reason why I've decided to introduce Mummy Hour this year is because I know that even if the loop scheduling of my one-on-one time doesn't work, I've still got the Mummy Hour in order to give my children that really important Bible conversation and some of that extracurricular reading aloud stuff, which I also want to give to them as well. Alright, so number 3 is another loop schedule. Now, my oldest son is going to be turning 11 this year, and more importantly, he's beginning to read at a more intermediate level. So I know that it is time to start phasing out of minimalist homeschooling. So the way I've decided to do this, and I've given this a lot of thought over the past few weeks when I've been just mulling over how we went last year, how he's progressing, and how I could help him progress without extra stress in a way when we're phasing out of this, is that he's going to keep his core subjects, which is writing, reading, maths, creative writing, and his Bible verses. And then we are going to add in one extra subject, probably from master books again, where he can do and read through and work on his own in that practice. And of course, I'm going to be there every step of the way to help him learn. And so what I've decided to do with that is to sort of loop each book in a certain time frame, and then we'll loop in another subject. I think this is going to help him, rather than introducing you know, like 3 or 4 new subjects, since it's time for him to start phasing into the high school stage. Instead, what I want to do is just introduce extra learning, also in a way that is actually going to help with his retention. I always want to make my homeschooling as effective as possible, and I thought of the concept of, you know, when I read a book, whether I'm reading it physically or listening to it on audiobook, I don't usually have 5 books going at once. I usually go, I like the idea of that book, and I listen to it from start to finish, and then I start the next book. And I've sort of realized, well, if that's the best way for me to retain the information that I want, and if that's the best way for me to just stick to actually finishing things and to stick to being able to remember where I last left off, because I'm reading the same thing over and over again with the same similar content base, then why wouldn't I do that in my homeschooling? I think that would be more effective. And so that's what I'm going to try. Will he do this forever? Probably not. But I think while he is a new reader and while he is just phasing out of doing quite a small workload, that this will be most effective. So if it's a really big book, and I think it might take him all year, I may sort of cut the book into thirds, and then he will do a third of this and then maybe a third of something else for the year. So we might do history and biology this year, and we're going to see how that works. Again, it's experimental. It may not work, and I might cut it short, but for me, I think it will. I think it'll be quite functional for us. So that's the other change to my homeschooling that I'm making this year. And about phasing out of minimalist homeschooling, I am going to do a video on that. I'm going to do a video on when I think you should start, how to start, and you know, why I think it's important. I don't think you should be a minimalist homeschooler right up until the end of high school, but you can still homeschool in a minimalist way. But again, I'm actually living through this as I go, so I'm going to be giving regular homeschooling updates, and I want to just remain honest in my own growth and go, well, look, I haven't actually phased anybody out of homeschooling yet. I have my ideas, and if they don't work, I'll be sure to tell you and go, listen, don't do that. Don't do that, but let's try something else. But being that I was homeschooled myself, I feel like the option that I have taken so far, which is to just do one at a time, is going to work. But we'll see. Alright, so number 4, which sort of coincides with number 1, which was loop scheduling my one-on-one time. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that was to create a higher work ethic in my kids' schooling. The reason why I want a better work ethic for my kids is I find that as soon as you allow them to be, when you start saying in your mind, oh, well, they're just kids and they'll get better, they don't get better. They don't. They just get worse. And they got to the point where at the beginning of last year, their writing was quite good. Their numbers were, you know, I could actually see what they had written, you know, just basic. By the end of last year, their work was so sloppy that I was constantly annoyed and telling them to get back and rub it out and do it again. And I realized, okay, if I'm not there as like the quality police constantly, which obviously makes sense, like I should have always been there, but I sort of thought that if I gave them some grace, that they would just still do okay. But I mean, maybe other people's kids can, but mine don't. So that is something that I've had to just adjust and go, right, I do have to be the quality police. I do have to be standing over their shoulder saying, that A isn't right. So this was sort of a lax on my part of not really disciplining them for sort of scribbling and not writing correctly in their books. I think when they're very young, you can't be on their backs constantly with going, this isn't right and that's bent, because all the time, because it makes them feel a little bit you know, degraded when they're just trying to start off. But obviously you do have to make sure that they're writing properly with correct letter formation. There's that middle line there that I think is important, and I know, and I can be honest with myself, that last year my kids were very lax when it came to just having their writing done nicely, just things written and things kept nicely. They did not do that last year. So we already have something going which was successful last year, and that is they get one pencil and one rubber for the whole year. And they were very excited to show me, and we all noticed as the year progressed that by the time they finished their school, their pencils were about that big. And probably not the best for their writing, which perhaps we will give them a pencil when it gets to like halfway big. But that was really good, because in the years past I have just, you know, oh, where's your pencil? Oh, it's gone and it's lost, and next thing you know they're using a colored pencil or something like that. And I don't want that. And that, because I gave them the reward at the end of the year, which was going out for lunch and a milkshake if they kept their rubber and pencil, that was very effective. I'll definitely be doing that next year, and I encourage you to try that. Give your kids a reward at the end of the year and go, if everyone has the same pencil and rubber, you're gonna go out and get splurged on, because it takes away a lot of stress, because there is nothing worse than sitting down at the school table and no one has a pencil. And that used to happen to me every time, and it just starts you off wrong, and just I hated it. But last year I really enjoyed that aspect, so I'm doing that again. I'm going to be encouraging and disciplining my children if they do not do their work correctly. And the best way for me to discipline them is, one, I use the penny reward system, which is not a system that I invented. This is a system that I got from Ami's for Mama, and I will link her Instagram in the description down below if you don't know who she is. But she has the penny reward system, which is super effective. So they all have their jars with the pennies in, and if they want privileges on the weekend, like playing on their Nintendo Switch, or staying up or watching movies, or staying up late with mum and dad, then they need to have a certain amount of pennies in the jar. And from now on, I'm going to be including their schoolwork. So if they have a day where their schoolwork is not done correctly, where I had to keep telling them to rub things out and write them again, then they'll be getting a penny taken out of the jar. As well as, too, if I see that they've done a whole page of writing and it is really sloppy, I will make them rub it out and do it again, and I don't care how long it takes them. That is something that I'm going to dedicate myself to in 2023. All right. Number 5 is I'm going to create an actual book list of books that I want to read aloud in 2023. I think last year I didn't do as much reading aloud as I wanted to, and I constantly had books around, but we just weren't consistent with picking up the same book, and we weren't consistent with the amount of time we read each day. And I preach that it is such an important part of homeschooling, but I was not as consistent as I wanted to be with that. And it is hard when you've got little kids who run around and who want to play and who don't really have the attention span to sit and listen to a book. So with my read alouds, the reason why I want to make a list is because I want to make a list of so many books. I don't know how many I'll do. If they're big books, I might sit down and we'll do between 5 and 7 for the year. And then I want to have a reward for my children and for myself at the end of each book. I think that will encourage my children to actually want to sit down and listen to the book, because I think a lot of the times once we've done our homeschooling, and that, I don't know whether it's just my kids or the fact that they're boys, they're just really not keen to do the read aloud. And I know it's important, and I do have stages where they are keen, usually when we're not doing school. So that is a bit of a conundrum for me, but I really do want to introduce more consistently, because we do open the books and we do read, but I want to do it every day. So that is definitely something that I'm trying to hone, that skill. So if you want to know what books I'm going to read this year, then you can go and visit my Instagram, because I've put them up on there. So again, I think overall, what was missing from my homeschooling last year, which I do give myself grace again, because I was pregnant and tired and sick and had a new baby, so it was definitely a hectic year. But yeah, overall, I think it was my discipline and my attention to detail, my ability to discipline my children when they were sloppy and, you know, not when they knew that they weren't working up to the quality that I wanted them to, and just probably to their attention spans, even my little ones. They really kind of ruled the roost when it comes to what we did, which got really, and it still is right now, getting really unhealthy. And it is something that I'm like, right, I've got 2 or 3 weeks until I'm going to start school for 2023, and my little ones need to be in order, which is fitting because I'm going to be doing a child training video series, which I'm pretty much going to document how I'm going to get my unruly toddlers back into line. So if you want to see that, then hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, that wraps up my changes for 2023. It is exciting to be phasing my oldest one out of homeschooling, and I'm going to be writing down and documenting how I do that and everything that, you know, and how that goes. And I will be updating you probably in the middle of the year and definitely at the end of the year how that's going. I'll probably check a few things up on Instagram as well. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more, I'm going to start soon an overwhelm series and a child training series. I may do them you know, like at the same time, or I might do them one after another. Either way, that's the next content that I have planned. I did ask a lot of my subscribers what they want to see more, and it was definitely the overwhelm and the child training. So I'm going to share that. It is very fitting because it is something in my life that I need to sort of like get back in. Like, it's, you know, it's time to get my life together. And that's my next content. So if you want to see any more of that, then hit the subscribe. If you want to know any more about my minimalist homeschool take on starting ages, on why minimalist homeschool, on what I used to do my minimalist homeschooling, then I will link those videos down below, or you can go and check out my channel. You can also check out my blog, which is thesimplemamma.com, where I have the blog posts of the child training series. I have blog posts on how to loop schedule, how to block schedule, how to deal with overwhelm as a mum, how to deal with overwhelm with a newborn. A lot of the content that I already have on there, I just use as a script essentially to put content here on YouTube. So a lot of the time what I'm talking about on here, I've already talked about on my blog. So I usually have free content as well, which you can download onto your phone or print out, which will help you keep, you know, lists, goals, habits, schedules, all those kinds of things as well. I also have a whole bundle of reading freebies. So it is the start of a new homeschooling year, and if you're wanting to encourage a preschooler in your home or even an older child with basic skills, then you can read my How to Teach Your Child to Read post. I have a reading bundle on there. I have the entire book list of things on there. I will link them all down below. And if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. I think I already said that. And until next time, bye.